Good morning, gardening friends, and welcome back to another episode of What I Did in the Garden this week. Now we're going to pick up from where we left off last week. It's 2 days later because at the end of that last video, I said my back's starting to hurt. I should quit before I do too much. I did too much. So I was hurting yesterday, but a few pain pills and a little bit of careful exercise, and I'm back. So I'm going to get cranking on this. Let me turn you around. So this is where I left things. Let me move the can out of the way here so I can get a little closer in. I started excavating. I've got a giant pile of dirt which I've now thrown in one of these tubs that I happen to have left over after I moved. And ultimately I'm trying to get down far enough and over enough that I can build the first frame and stick it in there. Not too sure about anything up here. Oh, I should probably tell you, though it's not me, my parents do gardening too, and Dad attacked the roses. It's the yearly, I think it's yearly, maybe it's twice yearly, I think it's just yearly. He cuts them down to almost nothing like this. This is a miniature rose here, so there's not a lot of cutting there. There's another one there, another one there. So you can look forward to, there's another one there. You can look forward to seeing these grow through the year, and that'll be Dad's project. And Mom went through and pulled all of the plants out of the terracing here. And we're going to have to figure out in the midst of a pandemic whether we want to just plant seeds or whether we get some actual flower sheets, but I don't know that that's safe right now. So LA's really kind of under siege, but anyway, we'll figure that out and I'll give you an update when that happens. So back to the work over here. Phew, that's a bunch of work done. It looks like it's only excavation because that's all it is. My back is already starting to hurt a little bit, which is not good, but ultimately I've got a plan here. It's going to involve putting some blocks in the back, putting some smaller planters up front. Basically I want to make sure that I can actually get to that pipe in the future if I need to. So ultimately the bigger planter boxes that are going to go in here are just going to end up being smaller than I had originally planned, but not by that much, just so I can fit everything in there and still be able to do maintenance. So that's the plan. Now I'm going to go take care of the sprinkler out front. Okay, this should be reasonably simple. The one that I detected the problem with, you can see a little bit of moisture dripping off there. So I think it's this valve here that's gone bad on us. I have now shut off the water to the house just because I don't want it come flying out of here. But let me show you the problem. And it'll probably still be, yep, still doing it. And you can see it's just bubbling out just slightly. And so that's what I need to fix because we're basically leaking water. So basically what I'm going to need to do is get an adjustable wrench, not at that particular size, but there should be a nut under here that I can get to. See that? So I need to get my wrench around that nut and basically loosen the entire thing. Before I do that, actually, I need to deal with the wires. It's not real hard. It's not high voltage. So it should be reasonably safe to just undo the wires, and then I'll pull this particular valve off and put the new one on. Okay, that was a little trickier than I thought it was going to be. I ended up having to take this piece off, which was up here, because the old valve, where did I put it? The old valve's right here. The old valve sat in here, but there's this lip right here. This thing here was getting trapped underneath the lip of that one. So that's off. Now it's pretty much just a matter of unboxing the new one, and that should fit, I hope, yep, right in there. So I'll be able to get that in, and then I'll go put this other piece back on, and we'll get it wired up and we'll test it out. Alright, a quick little double check here. Doesn't look like that's leaking right now. I've got it reassembled. Now I'm going to turn the water back on. We'll see what happens. Okay, the water's back on and up to full pressure. I don't see any leaking around here. Any water that's there might be old water. Actually kind of feels like it might be leaking down below. That would be a separate issue. But I have to come back and check on that later. Like I said, any water down below could be unrelated. There's also the issue of the washer on this. Whether that, because I took it off, might be compromised. But I'm just going to have to check in later. I'm just going to have to come back and check on it maybe later today. Meanwhile, I'm going to go ahead and wire it up. Good morning, gardening friends. It's the next day. I actually have managed to not hurt myself too much yesterday, so I can get back out today. And so the plan, let me show you, is to work on this here. I've now, I think, finally got enough excavated out that what I'm going to do, it's kind of piled up in the corner there. I'm going to flatten all of this out. I'm going to make sure it's the right depth, and I'm going to start maybe marking things out so I can actually get to a point of building. Before I do that, I'm probably going to put, I need to see how deep it really is, and I'll put the landscape fabric down. I'll probably put a layer of the river stone just so we keep the river stone. It was actually recommended that I go ahead and do that anyway, just I guess we don't know where to put them for now. But to do that, and then another layer of the landscape fabric, and then I can start putting down the actual boxes that are going to go in here. So let me get started. I'll show you as I go along. Okay, here's where we are. I've got basically the bottom layer for the actual raised bed within. That's the bottom layer. The rocks you see here are just to kind of hold it down while I'm working. There is right here is the section that I put above the pipe just so it'd be easier to get to. Of course, that means I've got to remove this layer. There's basically like 3 layers above the pipe. But the plan at this point is I got to take some measurements so I can build the boxes, but I'm going to end up putting the boxes in the middle, putting the blocks at the back there. I'll have to build it up with soil. So basically I'm going to have to build a box in the middle first and get it positioned. And then I can put the blocks in the back. I can build up soil underneath so that they come up to being flush with the back wall here. And then I can put the paving stones on top of that. I need to pull out the blocks and just kind of put them in there just so I can make sure I got the measurement right. And I'm going to put a box in here. So I'll show you a picture of that. And I'm going to put the box in here. And then, like I said, I can figure out the dimension in the middle, and then it'll probably be 18 inches wide, but 15 or 16 inches, give or take, from front to back. So let me go ahead and get that, and I'll show you when I've got it at the next step. Well, that's not a perfect representation, but it's approximate, and it turns out my 18-inch front to back box is now being reduced to about 13 inches. It's considerably less than I was originally anticipating, but having the box in the front and actually get another box up on the wall, that kind of represents what'll be up in the corner there. So yeah, I think it'll work. It's going to be a reasonably deep box, and if you compare it to the big pot that I had the tomato in, that's probably close to 13. Maybe it goes to 16, but I think it'll work. Okay, time to prep the wood for the boxes. I'm going to use 2 of the cedar pickets and 2 of the redwood. First thing I'm going to do is sand these things down. Okay, well, I have to admit, I said I was going to sand, and I went ahead and cut it all. So that's all the pieces I need for these two level high frames. I know that I'm pushing my limit at this point, so I think I need to just put tools away, put the wood somewhere where I can get back to it and reassemble it. And if I feel that much better this afternoon, maybe I'll go after it, but we'll see. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to clean up and go have lunch and figure out where I am. Good morning, gardening friends. It's Monday. It's a couple of days later. I took a day off yesterday. It wasn't so much that I was in pain or anything like that, just took a day off. It was Sunday. Time to rest. But I am itching to get going, so got a couple of piles of wood there sitting on top of the trash can. Let's get to building. My leg is asleep. That's what I get for sitting for that long while working on it. But there you go. 2 boxes, redwood on the top, cedar on the bottom. But ultimately you're going to throw a bunch of soil in there and then put plants. So really, mostly people are going to be looking at the plants, right? So at least now I got the 2 boxes. I can go to the back and start figuring out how to put everything together. Okay, it's time for a test fit. I can already kind of see some problems and I know some things I need to do, but let's see what this looks like. Okay, that kind of gives, let me readjust this a little bit here so you can see. I already know that there's a couple of little issues to deal with. For one, the reason why they're so cockeyed right now is because the block is sitting on top of some other wood, and that wood is preventing them from going all the way down, so that's also why they're not exactly flush, but they do fit in there. That's the key. They do fit in there. So the next thing I need to do is off on this side right here, I need to make sure that I've got enough of the river rock in there before I lay them down, because ultimately once those things go in, I'm going to start filling them up with the soil, and it's just going to be too much to try and move them around. So they'll be in their final location, and then I'll be able to move the planter that's right here out of the way and fill it in with soil, and then on the other side I'll be able to fill in with soil over on that side, fill in with soil, and then start putting blocks in. So really they're just gonna go in place, and then I'm gonna start filling them with the soil, because there's just too much of it right now. So I've got to get that going so I can reduce that pile and then move forward and work on this area here, and then start building another box, and so on and so on. So let me get started. Okay, at this point we're pretty much close to level. I don't think I'll ever get it perfect. And when I ran a board across, I realized that even though I was trying to make it flush, it's a little on this side. The boxes are a little higher than this wall, but on that side they're a little bit lower than that wall. So yeah. Next thing is I'm going to go ahead and work on sifting some of the soil, but my phone is overheating, so I'll pick that up in a few minutes. Okay, I've given it a little time to cool down, and meanwhile I've gotten a little bit of work done. I've got the first box in there, got the other box kind of slipped in right there, and this is the screen I use. It's just hardware cloth on a 2x4 frame. It's actually pressure treated, but that's, I think when we built it, that's what we had available. And I basically just get about a bucket full of soil and drop it on there and just kind of swish it back and forth, and that separates a lot of the rocks from the soil. So I end up with something like that in there. Because there's actually a plant in here, I'm having to do it kind of more over this one here, and then just picking up some of the soil that's in here and moving it over to there. But that's kind of what I'm doing, so let's go to the time lapse and see what it all looks like. Okay, well, I figured the phone was heating up again, so I just stopped the time lapse, but I figure you kind of got the idea and continued on, and now the tub is empty. I've gone through it all, and it did occur to me towards the end of doing all of this that this was actually just about the right proportion. The amount of soil in that whole bit that I excavated versus the rocks in the soil. The soil almost perfectly filled these two. There is a bucket here with some more in it. And that I think I'll use to fill this one in here. I then realized I don't have quite enough blocks to go all the way across. So I put one about 1/2 block over, filled in the rest with rocks, and I can probably pull some rocks from over here to go over there, and then I can put the stepping stones going across. I need to look at other parts of the hardscape that I can rip apart to finish this off, and then once things calm down with the pandemic, I can probably get some more blocks and some more stepping stones. But, you know, at least it's a start. It's looking pretty good, I'd say. Let's step back a little. You get an idea what it all is going to look like. I'm not too sure about the plant that's in there right now, but I mean, I'll figure that out. And then I just got to pick up from here and keep moving that direction. So I'm going to finish up and we'll pick up again tomorrow. Good morning, gardening friends. It's the next day. I've recovered again. That's a good thing. And I did kind of finish up and polish things up a little bit last night. So you can kind of see what this looks like. Let me flip you around. So this is, I managed to kind of finish them, get them all cleaned up, and put in some of the garden lights just for fun. And the sprinklers went off this morning, and it appears that they have actually sunk it down a little bit. So I got to fill that in. But we're done basically with building those two big boxes and kind of getting things moving forward. But now I got to deal with this mess and eventually deal with the plants over here. So I think the first thing I'm going to do this morning is pull these plants and move them over there onto the terracing just to get them out of the way so I can continue the construction here, because I think what ultimately I'm going to be doing here is these are going to be tomatoes and peppers in these two boxes, which means the basil, which is still alive, need to go into some different planters, but I need enough room to be able to kind of shove things over to the side, the tools I'm working with and what have you, while I excavate and prepare this area before I build the next couple of boxes. So let's get the plants moved. Okay, so that step's done. Let's go take a look at what it looks like over here, just so you get an idea. Basically trimmed everything, especially the there you go, the oh, what do you call it? Why can't I remember what? Basil, thank you. Trimmed the basil, trimmed the flower heads off. And typically what I do when I do that is I just put the cuttings back in, because sometimes it'll spawn another plant, so that'll just kind of keep it going. Mostly it's that basil plant, and then another, let's see, oh yeah, sorry, that one's a second basil. It's not looking as good. The rest of them are all pepper plants, not looking great, but who knows, maybe over here they'll get a different kind of sun, they'll get regular water, which, I mean, we're getting regular water anyway, but we've got sprinkler heads up top there. So, we'll see. Now on to starting to take things apart. Okay, so hopefully you can see where I'm going with this. Now I've got all this river rock moved over, but actually, after some thought, remember I said that we're going to have a box here, and then there's going to be a pathway here. Well, I need to fill that pathway with something, so I'm going to fill it with the river rock. What I did yesterday with filling in some of the stuff in the back with the gravel, I've learned if you put the gravel in and it's not covered up by something else, then I mean, you can act like a dry well, but the problem is the weeds get in there, and trying to pull weeds from that gravel is darn near impossible. It's really crazy. So if we fill this area in with river rock when I get to that point, that should take care of what I'll do is I'll put some landscape fabric on the bottom. I'll put the river rock in, make it up to being flush with this, and that way, for a pathway, we can walk across the river rock, and then if we need to pull weeds out of it, we can just move the river rock around. It'd be that much easier. So that's the plan on that. Next, I need to do some more excavation. I need to excavate out to put what's probably going to be a 9-inch box here. It'll still be the same depth front to back, but it'll probably be 9 inches across to match with being flush to this edge here. And then after that, I think they're going to be regular 18-inch boxes. I have to decide whether I want to go all the way to the back wall at that point. I think I'm okay once I get to that point, so those will probably be full-size boxes, but here I think I'm going to end up putting blocks. So that's still sort of in the thinking phase, but the next thing I got to do is a bunch of excavation and refill the tub. Okay, it's been a little bit of time. I have excavated out, I've pulled out a ton of roots. I mean, some of that was existing before, but and I've got it now down to the same level as, I don't know if you're going to be able to see, there's the irrigation pipe there. And looking at it, I realize I need to go down a little bit more. I've already excavated a ton of soil. So I'm going to have to go down a little bit more so that I can put landscape fabric and a layer of river rock. Yeah, I'll figure it out. I'll let you know. Okay, I think I'm going to be smart about this. After all the excavation, I'm feeling my back, so I'm going to end up quitting for the day. But I did get first layer down and some of the river rock in there. I didn't go all the way end to end for hopefully obvious reasons. Basically because I'm going to go ahead and continue this line of smaller boxes up along the front of the wall, because that'll allow me to get to the pipe should I need to. And then I can leave a spot in the back to put the blocks and the pavers to make a pathway. If being able to prune the bottle brush, I think we can get at it from the other side. And if we can get up on the hill here, we can put 1 foot down on that ledge there, and that may be all we need. And so I might not need the blocks in the back. So there's a lot of figuring to do, and I need to have a discussion. So that's kind of where I am. I'm going to wrap it up for today, and I will pick up again tomorrow. Good morning, gardening friends. It's another day. It's time to keep going with this. Let's see what we got so far. You can kind of see, you know what, I'll just spin you around. So just a quick summary. We've got that far a couple days ago. Yeah, the soil's fallen. I will fill that in. I'm not worried about that. And yesterday, I got as far as getting a couple of layers of landscape fabric down and had this left to go, and the question of whether the pathway should be 18 inches or wider. And after discussing it with my father, he says, no, 18 inches should be fine. If you want to go a couple more inches, no big deal, but don't go too far. That's his directive, so that's what we're going to do. I may go a couple inches beyond. I might get as wide as 24 inches, which is, he's like, oh, no, don't cut off 3 inches on each side. But I'm more concerned about just a misstep and landing in the garden beds. So I'm need to figure out some measurements anyway. So I'm going to pull out the tape measure and see what I come up with. Okay, here's the reality. I've got about 100 inches to work with. The first 9 are going to come off of this box and down to about this point here with a box running across. That'll take care of the upper level, and then I'm into the lower levels. Off of the 19, which drops us down to a 12-inch box, which, while it may sound like I've lost a bunch of space, those are 13 inches deep. And actually, there was a concern I had. The big planter that had the tomato in it last year actually measures out to 18 inches, but that's an 18-inch circle. And if you work out the numbers, interestingly enough, this box here is 18 by 13, but it's rectangular. And if you take the area of 18 by 13 and you take the area of an 18-inch diameter circular pot, the areas actually come out about the same. And so if the depth is the same, basically the volume is the same. So even though it felt like, oh, this is becoming a smaller box, not really. So I'm happy with that. And the 12-inch box then wouldn't be that much smaller. I think what's really kind of happened here is it's just wider up on the second level than it is down on this level. I might be able to squeeze in 13, but I think that's taking a chance that I'm not going to be able to fit everything in that I want to fit. So I'd rather go down to 12 and just be safe and have to pad it out with some extra gravel. That said, I need to probably, I've got a couple more of the longer boxes there, and I can use those down here. But I may need to build some more in the future. Not a big deal. I can leave it kind of open for a little bit until things calm down and I can get some more wood. And the area in the back, basically my thinking is I'm going to fill it with gravel that comes from sifting the soil, which is what I'm doing to fill the planter boxes. So all that got excavated here, I need to figure that I'm going to sift that and get the gravel out of it, and that's what'll go in the back. So I think I have a game plan here. This is the end of this particular working episode, so to speak. So I think I'm just going to kind of jump in and just give you real quick updates from this point on, but now you can kind of see my thinking, my game plan. So here we go. Well, surprise, surprise. Do you see what I see? Let's pick this up and go. Take a look. I'd forgotten that I had done this. I know I did some irrigation work in this planter, but that's the old pipe coming up. So the final riser was there originally, and then I extended it to get it into the corner to this one. So now the question is, since most of my planter boxes I was going to put here would fit down to that pipe there, but now it's coming up a little bit. So let's grab a box Not the neatest box I have, but it'll do. And let's see. Does it? Oh, good. It fits with room to spare. So what I can do is same thing I did before. I'm just going to put some landscape fabric, fill it with gravel or rocks or whatever to get it up to the right level, and then put the box on top of it. So that'll take care of that. And now it's just back to leveling all of this out, kind of figuring out where I am on this, and then trying to calculate how much space I need in the middle for that pathway. It occurs to me that I should probably explain what I'm doing right now. I'm taking the remaining, I've placed as much of the river rock as I need to place on either side of the pathway in the middle. So what remains that you see sitting up at the top of the picture here, that is what needs to go into the pathway. So I was trying to figure out how am I going to know how deep to dig. And it occurred to me that those tubs are actually just about the right size. So this tub right here, I'm filling up with the river rock, and then I'll be able to take a measurement on how deep that is, and I can use that to determine how deep to dig my hole. It'll be approximate, it'll get me close, it won't be exact, and I need to go get a little bit more of the we have it. I just need to go actually retrieve some of the landscape fabric and get that in place too. But that's the plan. That's what you're going to see next. Okay, I think that's about enough for one day. We're all pretty much, we're pretty much all set up, is what I'm trying to say. I've double-checked the measurements, and I think, yeah, it looks like the boxes are going to be 17 inches wide and 12 inches deep. I need to build 4 of those. I also need to build a 9-inch, which will be, 9 inches by 13 inches. Just kind of making mental notes to myself here, but that means that tomorrow I think is going to be a day of cutting all the wood and maybe building, and then possibly the next day we'll be filling everything in, and once the boxes are in I can finally put all the river stone in, and I think that'll pretty much take me through the end of this particular project. And then I got to figure out what I'm going to plant in all those boxes, and then maybe go pull some weeds before we get to actually terracing the hill. So that's kind of where we are. I'm going to wrap it up here for this week's episode of the sort of progress report. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So this is the Budget Gardener signing off, saying, may your thumb be green.